Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm Isa Tahira, your host, and this is Industry Standard. Today on the program, we have the author Zoe Dubno. Her debut novel, Happiness and Love, is a scathing critique of New York's cultural elite. The plot follows a young woman who, after returning for a friend's funeral, attends a chaotic party that exposes the hypocrisy of her social circle. It was named one of Vogue's best books of 2025, and I can't recommend it enough. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching. Zoe Dubno, thank you so much for being on the show. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well, except for the fact that it's freezing brick cold outside.
It's freezing cold,
Yeah.
but it's nice and toasty in here, isn't it?
It's very warm in here, but I think the switch of the temperatures, maybe that's like an old whatever thing, but I think I feel a cold. I feel like the little bits of a cold coming, and I'm like, I just had wonton soup, like where I just like sipping it like coffee, like in a cup.
You know, I haven't had lunch, so you can't mention any
What time is it? You gotta eat something.
I'm Spanish, girl. We have lunch late.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you just had dinner late.
No.
The whole meal schedule is pushed.
Everything is pushed back, so it's gonna be lunchtime soon.
Yeah.
After
what,
this.
like 4 o'clock?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes. And then you know what comes after that?
You take a nap.
Exactly.
But then after the nap, after the nap, do you do more work?
I do a little bit. I squeeze in a little bit of work.
That's crazy.
I've been napping about 2 hours a day, pretty much every day.
How do you do that? How do you go home?
I go home, take a nap, and then
Where do you live?
keep working. I live in Brooklyn.
So you
I go home,
all the way back to Brooklyn.
Home, I take my nap. I'm giving my deepest secrets away on my podcast, but I'm a napper, and I recommend everyone do this.
Okay, that's because I kind of have a problem where like once I've left the house, I'm like out in the world, and if I go back home, I'm back.
No. You need a 2-hour break, you know? You just fill up your battery, you know, you're in a good mood, and then you see people again, and that's it. You know,
that's really interesting.
That's why Spaniards are always in a good mood. Have you ever met a Spaniard in a bad mood?
I don't know. I feel like I don't know that many Spaniards. I've been to Spain, lovely place.
Only good
I interacted with nice people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they are, you know what? You are right, because I was in Barcelona once in the summer, and I was like, how are these people, like, still awake? Like, I'm so hot. I've spent the entire day, like, dripping. Like, and I was with these Spanish people, and they were like, no, now we're going to go out.
Yes.
I'm like, but I need to go to sleep.
No.
It's
2-hour nap, and then the second part of your day begins at like 5, you know, and that's how you stay up. And
okay.
Anyway, we could talk about Spain for ages, but what I really want to talk about is your book, which I love. It's called Happiness and Love, and it is my absolute recommendation for the holidays. So anyone who hasn't read it yet, you need to go pick up your copy of Happiness and Love. Okay, Zoe, tell us, for those who haven't read the book, what is it about?
Whenever I tell people that my book is called Happiness and Love, I have to be like, it's called Happiness and Love, but it's a joke. Like, it's not a romance novel. It's not what, you know what I mean? It's not
actually
the book.
Unhappiness and hate.
Yeah. So my book all takes place at one long dinner party where a lot of people that used to be very close friends and kind of no longer are have gotten back together after a long period. And, you know, the things that you can imagine would happen. You know, it's all from the narrator's perspective, and you get to find out about their pasts and their history with one another, and, you know, things happen. Not a hard sell, but, you know, it's all in the book.
Something that fascinated me about your writing style is that it's all written in one long paragraph.
Yeah.
Why? Tell me about that structure. That is a very challenging way to write, and it's your debut novel. Why did you write it that way?
Yeah, so my book is sort of in conversation with The Woodcutters by Thomas Bernhard, and his book, The Woodcutters, all takes place at a dinner party, and all of his writing, except for his plays that he wrote, are all in one paragraph. And when I read it, I was like, oh my God, the one paragraph thing, it rocks. Like, maybe because I have, like, I feel like I have the opposite of ADD, where, like, or maybe that is everything's ADD. What is ADD? Like, where I'm like, I'm locked in. Like, I can't stop. Like, with a book that I like, I just want to keep reading it. And with the Bernhard, I, like, read that book, I think, in maybe 1.5 sittings, because I was just like, I was hooked by the voice. And so I kind of, when I write sentences that are way too long anyway, and I don't take breaks, and I also, like to just follow a thought as it goes. So the one paragraph, it was actually kind of easy to write like that.
That's so crazy to me. I'm wondering, because I devoured this book, and I think the one long rant paragraph really, really works. But I want to hear more. How do you think that form influences the reader's experience of sort of this like social collapse that the narrator is describing?
Yeah, I think that the narrator kind of hijacks the reader's brain a little bit while you're reading it, which is what I felt with Bernhard. So that's what I wanted to kind of, I felt like I was Bernhard, and what he was experiencing in those books were me. So I was like, okay, I want to take the reader on a ride, kind of. So that, yeah, I'm glad to hear that it kind of worked on you.
It does, yeah. It's interesting. Your writing reminds me a lot of my brother's writing. He's a playwright in New York, and he wrote this amazing play called Toros. It was the New York Times Critics' Pick of 2023. Shout out to Danny.
Toros like bulls?
Toros like bulls because, again,
Spanish stuff.
Spain.
Yeah.
Spain.
You guys love that.
We love that stuff.
But did they make it illegal or no? They made the killing?
They made the killing illegal. Don't get me started, Zoe.
What, you're pro the killing?
Oh, no.
Oh.
No.
You're like, that's the whole point.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, I'd be like,
must kill animals.
Yeah. I don't know. I was going to be surprised by that. But
It's interesting because a lot of his work sort of holds like a mirror up to society, right? And it's equally uncomfortable, it's equally scathing, but it's also kind of hilarious. And that's why it reminds me of your writing, because I feel like you describe very much the same world.
Yeah.
What drew you to that world to begin with?
You mean to write about, or like to accidentally just be like have part of your life?
I mean, both. Is it purely fictional, or does it draw on any of your own experiences?
I mean, the book is purely fictional in that I've never been at a dinner party that was full of, long lost friends where I'm a narrator, or, the character that's narrating doesn't say anything the whole time. Those elements, everything is fictional in the book. But that world is not one where I had to do research. You know what I mean? I have been exposed to people like that. Why is a really good question. What drew me? I think there's a really good line in Seth Price, who's an artist, wrote a novel that's kind of like, I think he calls it a memoir, a fictional memoir. It's called Fuck Seth Price, a fictional memoir. There's a subtitle like that. He says, people are drawn to the art world because, I'm paraphrasing, it's got people that read who are like just as smart as literary world people who are dressed just as well as fashion world people, and rich people who throw good parties, but like all together as, it has better parties, hotter people, and people that are just as smart. I do think that to an extent that is true. The art world is a very interesting place because the people are, sometimes really interested in those things. But then there's like another layer to the art world, or to, whatever, the cultural world that I depict, where money undergirds all of those things, and strange relationships crop up, and, patrons are always have to be rich people, and people that make art are not necessarily rich people, and strange dynamics that are, I think, interesting to dramatize, like, come out of it. So that's why I set the book there.
You explore this sort of like Nepo baby dynamic in a part of your book where the child of a celebrated artist grapples with their parents' legacy. Your observations on this dynamic are really, really smart, and maybe some of my favorite parts of the book. I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but you write, perhaps the most difficult option for the child of a great artist is to become a nest beschmutzer, or someone who fouls their own nest. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Nestbeschmutzer. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I speak very bad German, so I wouldn't be the judge, but I think you did a good job. Yeah, I think actually I wrote that whole passage in kind of one day of just like the thoughts were coming to me on my little, it's funny, like Nepo baby, but yeah. I think the main thrust of that passage really is that artists' children are in a kind of predicament, because a lot of what being an artist is about having an original new voice that needs to say something. And a lot of people want to be artists because they want to be celebrated, respected, have interest put on them. But you to have an original and new thing to say, that can be hard, and that can be especially hard if you were raised by somebody that had all of these original and interesting and new things to say. And I think for other professions, like I think some of our greatest actors are Nepo babies, and it doesn't really bother me. I mean, a lot of the Nepo baby discourse, it doesn't really bother. Of course, things are a family business. Like I personally, you are a journalist. My father was a journalist. I watched my dad and go, I don't want to be a journalist. So I had the opposite. Like, no.
No, I do not want to do that.
Thanks. I mean, I liked it, but I don't want to have that life. But I can see if your parent is an artist or a movie star, and they get flown around, and people are, of course you want to be like them.
I have like mixed feelings about the term Nepo baby, because I feel like I agree with you. I think people should just own it and be like, yeah, I come, it's a family business, and kind of just move on. But I feel like people who are Nepo babies have a very strong reaction to the term. I
get it. I mean, I would also feel angry if I was constantly being overshadowed by my much more famous parent. I mean, I wouldn't want to have that be a part of my life. But then at the same time, like, in the art world, there's tons of Nepo babies, not just in art, but as gallerists or as antiques dealers. And with those things, it's like, well, yeah, it kind of makes sense, because you were raised to have good taste. You were raised to know how to do this job. You were constantly around this job. You're going to have not just the connections, but you're going to have other advantages over other people that want to do it. Should we punish you for that? No, but you should have to maybe do a better job of letting other people in as well. But we live in a world that is not good. Like, that's in a just world, right? Everybody could do whatever they wanted, and they wouldn't have to worry about making money doing that thing. So that's why people are mad at the Nepo babies, because it's like, yeah, great job. You come from a family that is multimillionaires. You now are getting paid millions of dollars to do that job. You didn't need it. So everything is annoying.
All right, back to the book. I'm really, really fascinated by your narrator, who she sort of describes the hypocrisy around her, and yet she keeps sort of returning to this world. And it seems to me that she's stuck between, this like wanting to critique and wanting to keep everyone at arm's length, but also seeking this kind of belonging. Yeah. And I'm curious about that tension. Can you tell me a little bit about how you developed that that tension with that narrator?
I think the narrator is a very wounded person, because much in the way that a lot of people go into a world thinking they're going to find people that they really can bond with and have the same values as they do, and it's going to be this beautiful thing. They've never met people like this, and now their life is finally where they want it to be. They've discovered that all of these friends that they invested so much in actually were terrible, and actually were using the narrator. And so I think that tension of the narrator being very strong and tough, but also being very tender and wounded, was kind of the main thing that main character trait that I wanted to have with the narrator.
The novel for me is about a lot of things. It touches on loss, it touches on overdosing, and then it also touches on unfulfilled creative ambitions. To what extent is this a novel about grief beneath all of the satire?
To a huge extent. I mean, when I read The Woodcutters, which, like, plot-wise is what my novel compares to, but there's no plot really in either of these novels besides somebody dies, there's a dinner party. there's an actor who comes. That's the plot. The narrator in The Woodcutters had this very under the surface, much more under the surface than in my book, reaction to his friend's death. And some of my favorite parts in that book were when he was talking about their relationship, and I wanted more of that, and I wanted more openness with that stuff. And I mean, not to be whatever so Bernhard about it, but like I read Bernhard's memoirs where he talks a little bit more about that friendship, and also he talks a lot about his mother. And I was like, this is somebody who is a misanthrope, but clearly loved somebody and has lost them is a very interesting dynamic. Like I found that interesting. And so, yeah, the book is very much about loss. I've, you know, everybody when you get to a certain age has experienced loss, and it's a bizarre thing that for young people, because I think the first serious like loss of like a friend or a contemporary, it hits people in a really strong way. And it creates also this unbelievably weird dynamic that I really explore in the book of like how people behave at a funeral, the competitive nature of like who knew the person better, or who's more upset by it, or, you know, even, oh, if this person would have lived for longer, maybe we could have really been friends, or maybe we could have really helped her, or maybe we could have, you know, these kinds of things happen. And I wanted to dramatize that a bit.
Yeah. And for me, I think it's kind of ironic, but the darkest parts of your book are also the parts that made me laugh the most. Yeah. You know, like the funeral. And I mean, yeah, I think you do something that's quite hard as a writer, which is to pair those two feelings together in the same moments and the same experiences, which is that very dark and depressing feeling, but also you feel like, you know what, this is absurd. I just need to laugh. Yeah. You know, and that might be one of my favorite things about your book. I don't know if you've seen Rachel Sennett's HBO series, I Love LA. It's this new series that's out. There's a scene where the characters go to this like celebrity party, right, at Elijah Wood's house, and one of them spends the entire party trying to film a TikTok with this like influencer. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's really funny. And I was watching that episode the other day, and I almost felt like those characters could have been in your novel. It's like these sort of like, you know, they're there for the clout, they're there for the social capital. Do you feel like these characters that you wrote sort of transcend place and time? Was that your intention? I didn't, you know, while I was writing, I purposefully didn't want to have it be so reference laden of like specific things that you would need to only, you know, like in that, I've seen one episode of that show and they're very like, oh, we're going to Erewhon, we're going to this place. And it's funny, it's totally funny. But for me, it's like I love reading older books, and you kind of lose a lot when those, you know, when I read the Bernhard book, when I read The Woodcutters, I felt like it was so contemporary and I could relate to everything in it, even though it was Austrian in the 80s. So I wanted to make sure that my book kind of had that, not timeless quality, but, you know, relatable and there's a great book, The Dud Avocado. Have you ever read that book? No, I haven't. It's a very funny novel set in the 50s in Paris, an American young woman, like, going around Paris having fun, whatever. And there's an afterword where she writes, my main regret in this book is that I used all these slang terms. That's so funny. And she's like, I really am an idiot for doing that. And she showed it to like a big jazz musician who was like, why is there all this jazz slang in it? You should take that out. And she was like, oh, like, I should have listened to him. Like, you know, she wanted to seem cool to him by using all this slang. So anyway, I think I remembered that Elaine Dundee thing, and she's right. Yeah, that's so funny. I guess you have to strike that balance between anchoring it in like a specific time, but also wanting it to feel relevant to other people who are not part of that community. You know? And to be fair, I don't think that my book, you know, is not extremely reference laden and full of things that are very contemporary, and people will, you know, get those things. But at the same time, like, that's part of the really great fun of literature. I mean, who knows if people will be reading this book in like 20, 30, whatever years. But I do enjoy, you know,
oh, that's the kind of shoes that they were wearing then, whatever, in books. So
Yeah. And I mean, if it gets turned into a movie, we can actually see all of the things you reference of the shoes
oh my
and
God.
the art and the style. And
Yeah.
when I was reading it, I could very clearly picture the scenes that you
Yeah.
described,
Yeah.
sitting on the couch and
Yeah.
sort of like judging everyone around her.
Yeah, totally.
I read this really, really well-written article the other day. It's kind of a few months old, but it's called "The Case for Marrying an Older Man." The author, Gracie Sophia Christie, makes the
Oh my
case
God.
for... Have you read it?
This art where she says that she has a flush ponytail. I've never forgotten that. What the hell does that mean?
You know...
Okay, continue. What's your question about it? I'm sorry for
This is
interrupting.
your curveball question, Zoe. She makes the case for marrying an older man, right?
The guy in the article was like 30 though. Like
Yes.
it wasn't even if you're going to marry an older man and write an article about it, have him
Marry
be
a much
50.
older man.
I'm not interested in you writing about being like that was the real curveball in the article.
Well, it's interesting because she gets to pursue art in this relationship because she doesn't have to worry about money, essentially, right? She's with this older man and she kind of makes the case for it, right? She's genuinely happy. She feels like this is a good power dynamic, and ultimately she gets to do what she loves. And she has this quote that I want to read out loud. "Transactional thinking in relationships is both as American as it gets and the least kosher subject in the American romantic lexicon. When a 50-year-old man and a 25-year-old woman walk down the street, the questions form themselves inside of you. They make you feel cynical and obscene. How good of a deal is that? Which party is getting the better one? Would I take it?" I think that quote is really interesting, and I want to know, in the context of your book and the narrator sort of is with these art curator. I mean, she's staying at their apartment. She's sort of with them for the clout and the access into a community.
Yeah.
What do you think of this quote?
Well, that quote is interesting because I think it's kind of different because that's about like real partnership and like your actual life. You know, that's actually quite heavy. Like, I think my narrator is involved in a transactional relationship, but one that's a bit at almost more like a child who they have sex with sometimes. It's still terrible and parasitic, but I think the narrator and the couple both kind of know there is an expiration date to this. The narrator might feel sucked dry and the couple might feel like used, but it's not. I don't know if it's the same as like in good faith marrying for money. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of my novel, I actually think that the Nicole and Eugene, the main couple that are throwing the dinner party, they're the ones that are engaged in more of a transactional relationship like that, where he isn't sure if he's married her for her money or not, and she isn't sure if he's married her for her money or not, and neither of them can really make up their mind about it, and neither of them can decide if they're in a good faith marriage or not. And I find that to be more interesting than, you know, a young girl marrying a rich guy for money. Who cares? Like, do whatever you want. If that's what lets you go to bed at night is not having to work and to do whatever you want, fine. Personally, couldn't be me, but. Because I think I see there's a deep unhappiness that comes from that. I mean, that's what the characters in my book are experiencing. Like, do you really love me or not? And and as many times as they can ask and do things to try and find that out, the uncertainty kind of pushes people away completely, and you can't have any intimacy if you feel like you're doing. I mean, but with all relationships, there is an exchange. Like, any existentialist would tell you, like, you know, we're all defined in relationship to one another, and you're making a choice to be with people if you're living in good faith. And so, you know, with my partner, I mean, I'm not with him for his money, sadly, but I get all kinds of great things. He gives me great book recommendations. I like spending time with him, you know. So I don't know. That article was just annoying. I found the article so annoying.
Do you think there's anything inherently wrong with a transactional relationship?
Well, I'm not like a moralizing person. I think people should do whatever they want, but you have to own your choices. If you're in a transactional relationship, it's the same with the Nepo babies, right? Like, understand that this is why you have what you have, and don't expect people to react in a way that makes you happy. You have to be happy with your choices.
What are you hoping readers of this book take away emotionally from it?
I think, I mean, I don't, not that there's like an ending to spoil, but I hope that, and I've heard from readers, and it makes me happy, that the ending satisfied them. That the way that the narrator experiences the dinner party and then leaves, the leaving and the kind of freedom, I think you can apply to very many things in your life. Like, sometimes I even need to take my narrator's advice to just go, that actually doesn't affect me or have anything to do with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we are constantly with our phones looking at stuff that is completely aggravating, all the way to infuriating, all the way to makes you just want to cry. And we have a lot of choice to just disengage. We have the great privilege in, you know, most of our lives to just disengage. So if whether it's like a friendship or a jealousy or a thing like that, you can just wash your hands of it, and it's only up to you to make yourself not care about it anymore.
I love that as the
Yeah.
takeaway. That's great. Okay, Zoe, I need to ask you, because I was just in London, and as my listeners know, I lived in London for many years. London versus New York.
Oh yeah.
Give me your hot take.
My hot take is, if you lived in London, how did your nap schedule work? Because when why do they have the pubs close at like 10? Like, it's actually crazy.
This is a good point.
I grew up in New York. It's like bars close at 4:00 in the morning. That's on a Tuesday. That is what should occur.
As God intended.
Yeah. Why would you have what's going on over there with that? I mean, I love London, but what are they doing?
Who has cooler people?
I don't know. I think it's different types of cool people. I go back and forth. I mean, I don't know. London has lots of great, amazing people.
Yeah.
But I'm from New York. I mean, we've got my mom here, so.
So that's 1 for New
Yeah.
York, 0 for London. It's so funny because I wouldn't be able to answer that question. I obviously love New York, but having lived in London for like way more years,
Yeah.
I think that I appreciate, just the creativity of the city, and
Yeah.
it's so different. You know, it's so hard to compare.
Yeah.
And that's a very diplomatic answer, but
People dress better in London. Every time I return to New York from London, I'm like, oh, everybody looks like shit. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't have to see sweatpants. I didn't have to see people in exercise clothes. I didn't have to see that, and now I'm back to having to see that. I don't want to see that.
maybe because it's so damn cold here, though.
No, even when it's hot. When it's hot, it's even worse. Because then you see the people in the yoga leggings and just like a little top, and I'm like, no, please.
This is true.
Not to be, puritanical. It's more just put a little, I don't want to see that. We're not in the gym.
I agree. I again, I as a Spaniard did not own sweatpants until I moved to the States for college.
Spanish people, they're getting dressed the whole time.
But I have to say, once you go comfy, you can't go back.
You wear sweatpants in the outdoors?
Not in the outdoors.
That's what I'm saying. It's
but
fine.
now I own sweatpants and I wear them.
Yeah, they're great. I mean,
at
sweatpants
home,
are great
and
in the
they're
home.
great. They're great.
Yeah.
I would wear my sweatpants out, but I haven't.
But
yet.
I'm sure you'd temper it. I'm sure you'd take the sweatpants. You'd wear other clothes that de-sweatpantify.
Yes.
This is not what you experience walking around. There's a documentary about David Hockney where he comes to New York, and what was her name? He had this best friend, David Hockney, who was like a fabulous rich lady who dressed like amazingly. Her name escapes me, but he was like, come with me to New York. Like, I've got this museum show and I've got this thing, and they're in her apartment in London. And she's like, no, I can't look at those people. They're dressed terribly. And he's like, what is she talking about? I always think in New York everyone looks so cool. And then he's like, she's ruined my trip. As I'm walking around New York, like, I'm just seeing, she's right. So funny.
Poorly dressed.
So people in New York dress great. Yeah.
That might be the main takeaway of this interview is British people dress better.
No, British people don't dress better. They have some self-respect, and they respect public life means not wearing your pajamas in the outdoors.
You know that's going to be what I clip for Instagram.
That's fine.
And
That's
everyone's
fine.
gonna come for you.
That's they can. They should. If you want to be on record defending wearing your pajamas outside and you're okay, that's good for you, but you look like an idiot.
Okay, Zoe, this is my last question, and I ask this of everyone. How do you define personal success as a writer?
I don't know. I don't know. Because you can't be that other people like it. And it can't be that. I think for me, it has to be that you feel like you did a good job and you at least don't dread reading your own book or your own story or your own thing. Because, publishing something, that just means a couple of people liked it and they were willing to stake a financial bet on you. And getting a good review means that one person enjoyed reading it. And, having good sales means that, you can't define your life personally, I can't define my life in that way because then you have endless opportunities for unhappiness and wanting more. Like, okay, well, that person liked it, but what about that? You can immediately start, me, well, if one person likes it, everybody has it. So I think it's just that you genuinely enjoy it. I mean, I like that I can read my own writing and go, oh, that was actually pretty good what I did there. So I think that's success.
I love that. And I think that's a great note to end on. As long as you like it, that's what's important. That's what matters.
When you say it like that, I disagree. But
I just turned what you said into the cheesiest thing ever.
When you say it like that, I'm like, oh God.
Zoe, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.